just off the coast of Normandy, France, is a magnificent Benedictine abbey. This is Mont Saint-Michel, built between the 11th and 16th centuries. Today, it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. But further north along the French coast is a monument to a very different era, the Utah Beach D-Day Museum. Honoring the Allied soldiers who fought so bravely during the Normandy landings, the collection includes a uniform that once belonged to a sailor in the U.S. Navy, a life vest worn by one of the first British soldiers to land on the beach, and a wooden barrel that once contained alcohol for treating wounds. But one object on display played a bigger part than any other.
The artifact is 36 feet long, it's 10 feet wide, it weighs about 6,000 pounds. It has a series of letters and numbers on the side. It opens at the front and has a ramp that comes down.
This landing craft recalls a monumental military operation that was very nearly blown off course.
This is a story of how weather forecasting came to play an important role in the most important invasion of the Second World War.
It's 1944 in England. World War II is at a turning point. While Nazi Germany still controls vast swaths of the European continent, the Allies are about to launch a major counterattack that they hope can win the war. After years of careful planning, they have determined that they will cross the English Channel and land a huge invasion of forces upon the shores of Normandy, France. The mission will be known as D-Day. In charge of the operation is Supreme Commander of the Allied Forces, Dwight D. Eisenhower.
He was the man who had the ultimate responsibility. He was the man who decided when the invasion went.
Eisenhower believes that the invasion will have the highest chance at success if it happens under the cover of night. But doing so will depend on two key factors: low tides and moonlight. Low tides will reveal any underwater traps laid by the Nazis near the shore.
If the tide was low, then these obstacles could be surmounted.
And moonlight will provide just enough visibility for the Allies to navigate their way safely to the beaches. After careful consideration, Eisenhower and his team agree to a small window of time between June 5th and 7th. If they miss this window, the next viable option won't be for another 2 weeks.
The longer the invasion is delayed, the more likely the Germans are to work out exactly what's going to happen. And if the Germans are ready for the Allies, then the invasion simply won't be a success.
Eisenhower sets the date for June 5th. As the day approaches, a vast army of more than 150,000 troops, 6,000 landing vessels, and 13,000 aircraft assembles along the south coast of England.
The proposed Allied invasion was really the biggest armada the world has ever seen.
But on June 4th, something happens that puts the entire operation at risk. The skies turn dark. A storm is brewing.
There's something that no general, however good, can control, and that's the weather.
Launching the invasion in the midst of a storm could be catastrophic. Rough seas could capsize landing crafts. Heavy fog would make air support impossible. And rain could bog down soldiers and vehicles on the beaches, leaving them sitting ducks to enemy fire.
It meant total disaster for the invading force.
So with Mother Nature turning against them, what will the Allies do? It's June 4th, 1944, World War II. Supreme Commander of the Allied Forces, Dwight D. Eisenhower, faces a huge dilemma. The invasion of Normandy, scheduled for the following day, June 5th, is in jeopardy. Heavy storms and rough seas make launching an attack almost impossible. But if he delays, Eisenhower risks word of the invasion leaking to the Nazis. So what will Eisenhower do? With the clock ticking, Eisenhower puts his faith in his trusted weather expert, a British Royal Air Force captain named James Stagg.
He was a meteorologist and the most important man on the weather forecasting side.
Stagg tells Eisenhower that the weather on June 5th will be bad enough to make the invasion impossible. The attack must be delayed. Eisenhower begrudgingly agrees. But he tells Stagg he needs to know as soon as a weather window opens up. Stagg and his team promptly get to work studying all manner of weather charts and readings.
70-odd years ago, weather forecasting was not the relatively precise science it is today. There was a lot more guesswork involved.
Stagg turns to a new method of weather prediction called synoptic forecasting.
It involves taking pressure readings, looking at the jet streams, the pressure systems, what happens when these collide, and making scientific predictions based on this.
Using this method, Stagg predicts that during the early morning of June 6th, there will be a tiny window of only a few hours, just enough of a break in the storm to move ahead.
When James Stagg went to see Eisenhower, he was now going out on a limb and trying something new, using a new technique.
For Eisenhower, it's now or never. He gambles on Stagg's assessment, announcing that the invasion will take place early the next day. And just before dawn on June 6th, the operation is launched.
The weather wasn't terrific. The sea wasn't completely calm. The skies weren't completely clear, but the weather was good enough for the invasion to take place. Stagg was proved right. He'd given the right advice, and he could breathe easily.
The attack signifies a decisive shift in power for the Allies and becomes known as D-Day. The Nazis, for their part, had done weather readings of their own and believed the storms would make an Allied offensive impossible.
This invasion succeeded. This was probably the most important turning point of the Second World War.
Years later, in 1954, Captain James Stagg is knighted for his vital role in the D-Day effort. His prediction goes down as one of the most important weather forecasts in history. Today, this World War II landing craft sits on display at the Utah Beach D-Day Museum in Normandy, France. It's a proud reminder of an unlikely hero who helped the Allies weather the war.